Hello, the Victoria Beckham refills have just arrived. Let's start with an unboxing and then I will propose you first impression of Victoria Beckham refills. And then reaction to big YouTubers that talked about these Victoria Beckham refills. That later on, so haters won't watch it anymore. And then I also will do a comparison with the Viseart taupe palette, that is the brow palette, Vise Pro. I have some thoughts already, so we can do a comparison. So let's start with the unboxing. A card, a new chapter. So I purchased myself, of course, these refills from the Victoria Beckham website. And I purchased the refill Victoria and the one that is called the Night Flash. Then you have, as usual, a cotton bag, and that's it. And the card, signed by Victoria Beckham. Let's see. I brought these two Z palettes. So this is the medium one and this is the small one. This is very Victoria Beckham style because my idea is to put both of these refills in one of these Z palettes, and I think the small Z palette is enough. I'll tell you the reason why I want to have both of these together. Reason is that the Victoria is a bit dark, and I like to have this cream shade in the Night Flash quad close so that I can mix and match between these two. Since I tend to wear lighter makeup, I think the Night Flash is very nice because of the presence of two light shades. That is the cream color, but also this light taupe. I have a Suku eyeshadow to compare with that I have in my mind that I think it can be close to this. So the main question is, can I get light looks with these palettes? And the second question is, was it a necessary purchase? What is the uniqueness of these palettes in my collection? Let's try to answer this, but before that, before touching the palettes, I need to wash my hands because I touched the outer box that was not clean. So let me wash my hands and let's start. So let's see if these refills fit the small Z palette. Wow, this refill feels quite sturdy. The plastic is thick and there are metallic pens, as already noticed before purchasing them. Wow, I'm proud of my discovery. This is the perfect Victoria Beckham Z palette. So they fit into a small Z palette and there's some space left too. So the Victoria quad and the Night Flash quad. This will be it. This is my bronzer case. You can refer to this video to see how I composed this dupe palette. I will also compare it with the original one. I can already see that this was too yellow compared to the original one. Then I also will try to find better dupes from my collection because I want to answer that question if this purchase brings something new to my collection, given that I have a big collection that is very curated with what I consider the best of the best on the market. So let's see. Okay, it doesn't fit. You can't put an eyeshadow quad inside a bronzer compact, not because of length and width, but because of the thickness of the refill. To make it sturdy, they put this black plastic that is quite thick. And if you notice from videos, the new cases, the refillable cases of the eyeshadows are thicker compared to the old cases of the eyeshadows. And also, it looks like they are thicker compared to the bronzer case. So the case won't close. So it's not possible to put a refill. I could have put one refill and then maybe additional, for example, Viseart eyeshadows like this. But unfortunately, the refill compact of the Victoria Beckham eyeshadows is too thick because of the black plastic. Therefore, I won't be able to close the bronzer compact. So yeah, it's not possible to repurpose the bronzer compact, put an eyeshadow refill by Victoria Beckham. Okay, once we have discovered that, it's not a problem for me because I have found a great alternative here. That is my Z palette that has the right thickness to house both the Victoria Beckham quads. And these I may reuse them to house the singles that are still on sale in my moving out sale. I'm moving abroad and I'm selling most of my makeup collection. So check my B.O.B. Mindset Instagram page. You find all the items listed. I will upload something more. So these are great to house those singles for people that are going to purchase them. So why did I pick these two color stories? Because I think these two color stories are the most iconic from Victoria Beckham. Let's start from this Night Flash. The reason why I decided to pick the Night Flash, okay, first of all, I wanted the free shipping because just one refill was not enough to get free shipping from the Victoria Beckham website. I was interested in this grayish taupe. The other reason why I picked this is because of this metallic shade. It is the powder form of the Onyx Lid Luster that has been discontinued, but it's such an iconic shade by Victoria Beckham. Now, about that shade, I don't agree with Tanya Wells, the reviewer who has shown the best looks out of these palettes. I would highly recommend to watch her video. She started with this palette and yeah, I think that was not fair. I would recommend to just watch the look without listening to what she says, because she didn't like this shade, but I think it was great on her. I don't know why she didn't like it. Yeah, she has a warmer skin, and I think she's the YouTuber that is the closest to Victoria Beckham herself in terms of skin tone. She has a light medium skin, also on the warmer side. So she is the perfect Victoria Beckham twin when it comes to try this color story, and I think she was amazing with this color story. Is my favorite look. I prefer the smoky look she did even better than the amazing one that she did with the Victoria. But anyway, she said about this shade that it's a matte with glitters. I don't agree. This is packed with glitter. It is the equivalent of the Lid Luster. Just look at final look, you definitely see the shimmer is packed with shimmer. Of course, with this such a smoky eye, if you use these two blacks, of course, you will need to do the eyes first and then clean up a bit. She also does that cleaning up before showing the final result. But I think that the looks that Tanya Wells created with this is amazing. And that's the reason why I picked this palette, because I wanted a shade that was not just a matte with sparse glitters as usual with these type of shimmery blacks, but I wanted something the most similar to the Lid Luster without being a Lid Luster. I used to own 3 Lid Lusters. I decluttered all 3 because they were impractical for me. So having something that is not as shimmery as the Lid Luster, I have to admit that. The Lid Lusters are even superior. If you want the best shimmery, shiny effect, then the Lid Luster is the way to go. For me, a trade-off is better between the impact but also the practicality, and this is the most practical way to incorporate the Lid Luster in its formula that is quite similar, not the same impact of course, but in the powdery form. And that's the reason why I picked this quad, to get the shimmery shade instead of buying the Wycon one that is, in my opinion, the best of the best version because it's in the baked gelée formula. But honestly, I didn't want to place an order. Buying the Wycon would have been almost the same price of this. because then with Wycon I would have bought more to get the offer, so I would have end up spending 45 or 50 euros and practically the price of the quad. So I said, let me pick the original one. Another thing that I would like to add that is quite original compared to other reviews out there is that this cream shade is not the same as the previous whitish shade called Blanc that was in the Tuxedo palette, so the older counterpart of this quad. And you can have the confirmation of that if you watch Sonia Butler's video, that still I think is the best review out there in terms of comparisons. It's not a stark white. And for my light skin, I'm fair light, not the fairest, is perfect because it would be exactly my skin tone. You can see here. So I would use this shade to even out my lids or to add a little bit of highlight, classy, not with the shimmer. And yeah, it's totally the color of my skin tone. You can see it. Let me swatch this shimmery taupe. Oh, this is amazing. For my skin that is neutral leaning cool, this is phenomenal. I have to say, I like the texture as well. Yeah, it's a standard powder, but it's very thin. I didn't expect that. Wow. And then we have, let's go bolder with this. This feels denser. I like it. I totally agree with what I said. It's not a matte with sparse glitters. You can pack the shimmer if you use a dense brush or a silicone brush or your fingers. Since this is so dark, I wouldn't use my fingers because I would use this as liner, as shimmery liner. That is also the way Victoria Beckham uses this shade. And this is the black. Wow, it's a very nice black. I agree. By just watching it, I totally agree with Tanya. So this is the palette. Now that I've watched it in person, I like it more compared to the Tuxedo one. I have one light shade. What in the Tuxedo palette was that bluish gray in the matte formula now is a satin, warmer gray because it's a taupe. It's a gray taupe, but more taupe than gray. I don't see blue in this shade. So it's warmer than before and less harsh. So it's ash, but not blue ash, but brown ash. I think it's much more wearable compared to that bluish gray in the Tuxedo. So I have the light color as in the Tuxedo, but less stark white, and for me is more updated. I prefer to have something that is practically my skin tone and not a white. I like this shimmery taupe. And then I have a powder form of that onyx lid luster, and then I have a black. Wow, how versatile is this palette? For every day, I will use just these two shades with just a bit of black to line up. Or if I want to give a little bit of sparkle, my liner will be made with this, with a very dense smudging brush to trace a line. This is an amazing palette. I think from the reviews I've seen, it's very underrated because people focus on the black. But I think that for neutral cool skin, this shade of brown, of taupe brown, is not too dark. It's perfect for every day. So this 1, 2, and 3 would be my perfect office corporate look. You don't have to go smoky with this palette. You can stick with the light shade and the taupe. That is less gray swatch on my skin compared to what shows here. And of course on Tanya, that is warmer and darker, it looks more ash gray, while on me is more of a grayish brown. Now let's see how red is this one, because I'm concerned. Anyway, I'm happy of this quad, that is the Victoria quad, because I can see the Victoria Beckham favorites here. There's a brown burgundy. I decided to go for this palette because I wanted to get the original burgundy brown that Victoria had in mind. And I've seen some outfits. She uses the burgundy a lot, and I think burgundy is very elegant color. But what convinced me to buy this palette is because it's not a pure burgundy, but is a brown leaning burgundy. So I think it's a complex shade. I wanted to get the original to be able to dupe it. This was the most intriguing shade, as well as having a powder version of the mink lid luster. That was also something that convinced me to go for this palette, because I decluttered my mink lid luster, and now I'll tell you my first impressions on this. So let's watch it. I need to wash my hands before. I talked and I didn't play record, so I think you missed myself swatching these two eyeshadows, but I will summarize what I said this way. These are the best talc-free eyeshadows I've ever swatched because they are very silky smooth. If you have experienced the Nabla mattes before the reformulation, those are the closest. And these are the swatches. This is this shade, and this is the brown burgundy. What is unique about this is the content of brown is not a pure burgundy like you find in many other brands, but it has a lot of brown in it. Also a touch of desaturation that makes it so sophisticated. The same is valid for this. And you can see how seamless is the blend, but also for the black shade. This blends so nicely. I can tell it's the best matte I ever touched. I will confirm that because these are first impressions and I need to use them for some days before confirming that. But I will do also a video that ranks all the talc-free eyeshadows that I've tried, and these are much superior than Hermes talc-free eyeshadows, and these are also much superior to Dior. I'm telling you. You can see how smooth they are, and I think the secret is that they have a lot of silicones in that. So I think that these are great mattes for aged skin because the silicone in it can fill in the roughness of the lids. It's great. I experienced this with Nabla. They truly reminds me of Nabla. Not powdery at all. They nailed the mattes. And then we have these two left. So I would say I would swatch this here so I can compare. Oh, it is so smooth. It's so smooth, and I think it's due to the silicones in the formula. It's very smooth. I never touch a talc-free eyeshadow like this. Okay, I have an entire wall made of glass here on my right. Hope that you can appreciate the colors without any, studio lighting. I see some reddish quality in it, some plum in it, and therefore it coordinates well with the other shades. I don't think I would be able to notice the difference once used as liner on my eyes, of course. So they may be considered dupes, but this is not a straight black, it's something more. It is more complex than that. And finally, let's watch this. So this has wow. This has that dense consistency. Okay. This has the same reddish base as the mink. But no, I would say this has more, wow, amazing. Okay, I can tell you something. I decluttered my mink eye luster because I didn't like how red the base was. But here in this shade of the Victoria Quad, I see more brown. It's a reddish brown, but more brown than red. So for my cool skin, this is much better compared to mink. So even blended out, I see there's less red than that mink shade. And I like the gunmetal shimmer is more greenish compared to mink. Mink was not so green. So compared to mink, even if I don't have mink to do a side-by-side comparison, I can tell you that shimmers are finer compared to the lid luster that are coarser. The shimmer is more green compared to the lid luster mink, because in that lid luster is more champagne. The shimmer was more champagne. Here is more green. And you know, green with reddish brown, I think is very interesting. But I have to say, on the lids, I don't think I will notice a big difference compared to mink. So for me, this is more wearable and more practical alternative to mink. So all in all, I'm very happy about this purchase. It is exactly what I expected, but even more, it exceeded my expectations because I didn't expect the mattes to be so smooth. You are free to use whatever you want, but these are not as powdery as I've seen from the videos. I think the reason why they looked so powdery was because they used very coarse brushes like synthetic of Sonia G. I would use more delicate brushes like Refershodo brushes, or I would use Tanseido or Suku or whatever squirrel brushes. But if you use something that is more dense, I would tap the brush, and I think you will feel these to be more ordinary than they are. I think I will stop this video here, and I will record right now the comparison video with Viseart.